Coming up on Man Enough.
Someone who doesn't want to be with us is not our person. And we have to accept that maybe even though we made a bunch of promises with this person, we played house and we talked about our future and all these things that make heartbreak so hard because we go back and romanticize all the things that we've done. And we don't get closure from having the person who left us to figure out new ways to tell us why they don't want to be with us. You know, it's like, let's have one more conversation. It's like, okay, I guess we should be with people who want to prioritize us. That is a character quality that I want in my partner.
Being man enough, what does that mean?
It's really manly to mess up, admit you're wrong, and then grow.
I couldn't accept that I was evil. So maybe I'm broken, but those broken things could be corrected.
Intimacy between a father and a son is me just wanting to put my head in your lap.
I love you, son.
You haven't called me benevolent sexist, but my experience is women are better.
Even if it's a positive, it's still not equality.
I don't blame men for that. I just blame the system.
This
Is
Man enough.
welcome to Man Enough.
Welcome to Drinking Water with Liz
Welcome
Plank.
to Drink Water. That's
Hydration.
right. Liz Plank was drinking water.
This hole is very small. Like a normal gulp is this.
Uh-huh. Okay, got
That's
it.
way too long.
I'm Jamey Heath, and this is,
Liz Plank. I'm hydrated Liz Plank.
and we got
Semi-hydrated Christopher Rivas.
a guest host with us. Justin's out for a little bit, and Christopher's hanging out with us. We like to call him Chris for short.
I got lucky. I got the call. I came through.
That's right. And for those of you, I believe that if you're listening, you most likely know what we do. But for those of you who may not, we have a show called Man Enough. Here you are. What does it mean? No, we don't want to be more man enough. Well, we do want to be more man enough, but we want to redefine and undefine what that has meant in the past. And what does man enough really mean versus what we think it's supposed to mean and how we posture it and all of this thing. So we want to champion the world entirely. And we believe that when men go in deep and talk about things that maybe they don't always do it with their friends, this can help us elevate humanity. And this is what we try to do here. So with that, we have guests on. Excuse me, not ghosts.
Ghosts? We have ghosts?
We don't want ghosts.
No.
We got
But
ghosts.
we do have guests on.
But they're feminist ghosts.
And let's just give a shout out, not
The
to limit you all
original
the
ghost.
time.
Yeah.
The original ghost. With that, and that ghost
Yeah.
right now might be Justin Baldoni, who wrote a book called Man Enough.
Yes.
And this podcast was then born from his efforts in that book and his life. So here we are. What are we going to talk about today?
Dating.
Dating?
we
that's
never
a good
talk
one.
about that.
Oh, you want to talk about dating, Liz?
No, I feel like I'm the token single person all the time, and even when we have we've never had a single guest host.
He's oh no, he's not single.
No, he's not
3
single.
years. 3
No,
years. I was going to say, isn't it
everyone's-
3 months? That's kind of single, but no, 3 years is real.
But I think dating advice is good for everybody. It's just like how to relate to other people,
That's
right?
right.
Like
It is.
if you're good at dating, you're probably good at just relationships in general.
Indeed. And then deeper than dating,
Hmm.
what is the meaning?
Yes,
Why
and how
do we date?
men and women can date better.
Yeah, how we can show up better in all ways. So with that, we have a special guest on, don't we?
We do.
Who do we got?
Nick Viall is a podcast host and television personality. You may know Nick from his seasons on The Bachelor, which I watched religiously. I feel like it actually saved my relationship at the time. It was a big bonding for us about who Nick was going to choose. And The Bachelorette, he was also on that. And he has a weekly podcast that I've been on, actually. It was an honor when my book came out to go on Nick's podcast, The Viall
What's your book called?
Files, For the Love of Men.
Okay, go ahead.
Yeah. And Nick talks about dating, love, providing guests with advice and stories from his own personal growth. He's also been on Dancing with the Stars, Insecure, Teachers, Speechless, and Family Guy. And Nick recently released his first book, Don't Text Your Ex Happy Birthday, and other advice on love, sex, and dating. Welcome to Man Enough, Nick.
Thanks for having me, everybody. It's
Yeah.
great to
We're
be
so
with you.
happy you're here.
Yeah, excited to be here.
Great to have you.
Been a
here.
fan of your show for a while.
Is that right?
Yeah.
Wow.
Who's your favorite host?
This isn't me. It's me.
Go ahead.
We
If you
start
say me, it's
every
a safe
show
answer.
asking that question.
I'll let you know when it's over.
All right, that's right. Yeah, welcome, man. We're really excited.
Yeah,
to have
excited
you
to be
here.
with you, for
I'm
sure.
excited because I think that you are someone. All the things that you have done, being on the Bachelor, in the Bachelor franchise, I think is correct, right? 4 times. I think that you have a wealth of experience that might speak to a lot of what we talk about. right? You've probably seen the best of humanity in some ways, and maybe some of the not so great of humanity, and how men operate and women operate necessarily with each other and all that stuff. So I'm excited to just kind of see what you've learned as an individual. Not so much about the gossip and all that, that stuff. I don't care about that, but just more of the experience and the learnings that have come from it.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I talk a lot about relationships and dating in life and on my show. And, whether I say it in my book or on my show, everything I talk about is really just, based through my own lived experiences and mostly mistakes I've made and my willingness to kind of reflect and learn and grow from it. So it never kind of comes from a place of judgment, but just a place of experience and hoping that people can avoid some of the pitfalls I didn't and things like that. But, certainly going on The Bachelor was a very kind of tumultuous time for me. And certainly it required me to do a lot of reflecting and self-growth to survive it.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
Well, we love
Thank
talking
you.
about mistakes. Yeah, we really do, actually.
We do, because we want to
yes.
learn how to make less mistakes.
Yeah.
Right?
And
that
help
helps us
other
get
people, not make
navigate
those
them.
mistakes.
For sure, yeah.
Should we start with our first question?
Yes. So we ask every guest, when was the last time that you did not feel man enough?
Probably last week.
Mm-hmm.
If I'm being honest with, there are always moments throughout where I don't necessarily feel, I guess, man enough. I never think about it in those contexts,
Or just enough.
Yeah, just enough. I've just never, I'm not that atypical guy. I've never felt the need to feel macho or anything like that. I'm not, other than playing, I was a big jock in high school and I played sports. I ran track in college. But if you think about kind of your typical, guy or whatever, or masculine things, that sports was the only thing that was masculine about me in that traditional sense. But I was more of the artistic. I liked to dance. I liked to dress up. I liked fashion and things like that. And so I never kind of my masculinity or me feeling like a man never derived from kind of like, activities like playing with cars or fishing or hunting or things like that. But I think it's more like relationship based, where if I don't feel like I'm able to provide for the people I love, and if an insecurity like that comes up, that I can often not feel enough in those moments.
Wow. That's a good answer.
Thanks for sharing.
You're listening to the Man Enough Podcast. We'll be right back. Hey, everybody. It's Jamey Heath here. Do you exercise often? And do you need to replace electrolytes so that you don't get a cramp or get fatigued? I hear you. That's where Element comes in. Element, spelled LMNT, is a simple, no sugar, artificial ingredients, coloring, gluten, or fillers added electrolyte booster. And it's suited to anyone following keto, low carb, whole foods, or paleo diets. The proof is in the clientele. Element is loved by professional athletes, tech leaders, and exercise enthusiasts alike. Now, recently, I've been focusing on bettering myself, and one of the ways I've been doing that is by increasing my daily exercise, and with that increase, I could often use some help getting hydrated and building up my electrolytes. Element is great for me because it has zero sugar. It's got a clean, fresh taste, simple ingredients, and rich flavors like chocolate caramel. Element is completely risk-free. If the salty taste isn't to your liking, simply share it with a friend and get your money back. So head to drinkelement.com/manenough, and for a limited time, get a free Element sample pack with any purchase. That's drinklmnt.com/manenough. Thank you to Element for supporting our show. All right. Welcome back to the Man Enough Podcast.
Okay, we're going right into it.
Right into it.
When you came in, you told me that there was a part of our podcast that was shared on TikTok.
Yeah.
That at first you were like, thumbs up, 100. And then afterwards you're like, wait, I actually don't agree with that. We want to know what it is.
Sure.
Tell us.
I think it was 2 TikToks where Justin was talking about the word being the phrase being emasculated, and how he thought it was a myth, or you can't really feel emasculated if you're enough. And I thought more about it, and I was like, and I did. Like, I literally commented 100. So, like, I definitely was someone who was like, oh, that sounds nice. I didn't, it was more like a question. Like, I didn't know what Justin really meant by that. Like, did he really think that, like, men can't feel emasculated, or what does that mean? Because it was just, and I thought about that, where it's just like, Well, I've definitely felt emasculated. And I read Justin's book, and I know he talks a lot about, men's ability to, encouraging men to be in their feels and articulate how they feel and kind of reflect and use their words, so to speak. And so it was just more like, why are we critiquing a word that might allow a guy to articulate a feeling? It wasn't until I was maybe in my mid-30s that I feel like I had the confidence and security to admit to someone I cared about that I felt emasculated.
Can you give an example of when
what
you
makes
felt
you feel
emasculated?
Yeah.
It was a while back, but like with a girlfriend where I felt like they were being a little too flirtatious in that moment. And it was just more of a conversation, but like it wasn't easy to admit to her that, And I think and where you literally don't feel enough. I don't think there's a lot of men going around owning up to the fact that they might feel emasculated. And usually when I hear that word, it's just more men are emasculated by this. There are kind of toxic things that we perceive as emasculating men that aren't. Or like when you see like Harry Styles, big fan of Harry Styles here, I'm a Harry Styles stan, but when you see him kind of dress up in more kind of feminine attire and we'll say ignorant things, how like that's feminizing men or emasculating men. Like I think that's ridiculous, But I do think men can feel emasculated. I think you can feel, ask any guy who's been cheated on.
I think Justin would agree with that. I certainly agree with it. I think it's just meaning at the end of the day, like someone may not feel black enough. But if you also said to them, you can never not be black enough. You are black.
Right.
So no matter how you feel, and I get that you feel it, you are black. I think his point is that manhood cannot be taken from you in that way, or that your masculinity, that's the myth. You might feel this and all of these things, but ultimately, let me remind you that no matter what your experience is and what you're feeling, you are masculine, or you are a man, or you are this, you are enough. Your identity is what it is, irrespective of what someone else may try to take from you. I think that's really the point of what he's...
Yeah, and that makes sense. I just want, but I think we all have to have that space to be able to admit when we don't feel enough.
Yeah.
Like we are enough, but sometimes we quite literally don't feel that. Yeah, it was just kind of, I had just a thought on that, and it's just more, because it's just like, I think it takes a lot of guts for a man to admit that.
It does. Which is the purpose of the show, exactly what we're doing, right? So I don't even think there's a contradiction there. I don't think that you saying 100, I think you probably were saying 100 to the spirit of what it means.
For sure, yeah.
That, of course, you feel this, let's admit this, all these things. And in the end, know that you are indeed enough. That can't be taken from you.
Totally, right. Because you can often feel, like I can feel emasculated and then realize, well...
You're not really.
Yeah, or it's just like I'm feeling this, but like ultimately... for example, let's use the cheating analogy, like you being cheated on is not a problem with you. It's a problem with the person cheating. They're projecting whatever trauma they might have experienced earlier in life in a toxic and destructive way. And whoever they're cheating with is probably doing the same thing. And yet when you're cheated on, you feel very, less than and literally not enough. And it's like you can have the recognition of like, well, I shouldn't be embarrassed and I'm not the one who played this role, but yet you can still feel that. And I think it's also just really important to allow ourselves to process those feelings and acknowledge those feelings. Because I think once we acknowledge feelings, it's, because I think all people, and especially men, I think we want to push feelings down, we want to, suppress them, and feelings never go away. They need to somehow be released somehow. And so it's like if you push something, it'll find another way to get out. And usually if it has to find another way out, it tends to be in a more toxic way.
Well, right. And there's this famous braid study. One group of men was asked to braid hair. One group of men was asked to braid string, like something that wasn't hair, and had a connotation, right, of like, I'm braiding. And the men who braided the hair were, when they were asked to like punch a punching bag, punched it harder and had more basically like aggression. And the thinking behind that, in terms of how that research was interpreted, was that doing a feminine activity men feel, okay, I
Overcompensate?
need to compensate for that with masculinity. And obviously none of the men knew that they'd hit it harder
Sure.
or were more
It's
aggressive.
interesting.
But to your point, if you don't address it, then it might come out in ways that you might not want. Like, do you feel like that's ever happened to you where, because I'll feel that with guys too, where we'll have a weird interaction which is actually not in line with who I know this person to be. And I'll like sort of bring it up and I realize like, oh, this came out because I was in I was perceived to be in a powerful position. And I think he felt, if we're going to use the term, emasculated.
Sure.
And then it came out in this other, context and wasn't actually like the way that he would normally react. Like it kind of created this new characteristic in him in that moment because I think it wasn't addressed.
Yeah, possibly, for sure. Yeah, I mean, if we're not in touch with our feelings, we'll find far more toxic and unproductive ways of expressing them.
Right.
Can I ask, you talked about, speaking of toxicity, when you're not in touch with your feelings or suppressing things and the things you suppress have an ability to find their way out, maybe in not healthy or productive ways. What are ways in which you stay in touch with your feelings, the hard ones, and how do you not let them get suppressed?
Well, therapy for sure. I'm
Big ups.
big into therapy. I've been doing it for a while now. But even prior to that, I had some very tough relationships in my 20s. I had some tough breakups and some heartbreak, and I didn't manage those very well, I don't think, looking back. But in order to get through those, I did a lot of self-reflecting, and I always had a strong relationship with my mom, and she's a very emotional person. She always made me feel very comfortable to feel however I felt, and so I've always felt comfortable talking about my feelings. Yeah, I talk. I like to talk through things. I like to get things out. I've always, I have 10 siblings, so I have a lot of siblings.
10?
Yeah.
Where do you fall?
I'm the second oldest, so there's six girls and 5 boys, and so I've been surrounded by sisters and things like that. So I've always had really positive and healthy relationships with women. I've always had a lot of, platonic friendships with women. And so, as a guy who was love struck early in life, I'd always have women friends to pour my heart out to them and things like that. And, or it was, I would have I had these office moms back when I was in corporate America, which was actually kind of cute because I ran into, one of them came to my book signing in Milwaukee and I hadn't seen her in 15 years and it was kind of a moment. But I need to talk through things. I need to get things out. I need to express myself, and I feel very lucky and fortunate that I've always felt somewhat comfortable with that. I remember one time I was really young. I remember being really upset, and I gave myself a rug burn on my forehead. And you know what a rug burn is?
Yeah.
Just rub your skin against a rug over like this, and you'll get a rash. But I was I don't know, probably 10 years old, maybe a little younger, and I just kept rubbing. I was really upset, and I basically gave myself a rash or a pretty big, a sore, I guess, on my forehead. And I just remember this. I don't remember what my mom said, but I remember kind of her soothing me and just kind of talking about more healthier ways of expressing my anger and things like that. Because at the time, I quite literally hurt myself, and it was just kind of it made me feel safe to find different and healthier outlets to express my feelings.
You mentioned having a lot of women in your life that you could run to in moments of need. I have often in my life had many close female relationships. I actually love being here in this show with you, Jamey. Reminded the importance of men and men's groups, and y'all know about Afan and Josh. I have a small group of men I can go to with those hard feelings, those big things. Do you have those men in your life?
Yeah, I've been lucky enough to have good guy friends. But it's different conversations,
How is it different?
Yeah.
I just think it was more. I think my guy friends had a certain level of they had limited bandwidth before it was all right, let's go do something else, where I felt like I could really just almost to the point where I overstayed my welcome, probably, of wanting to talk through things.
Okay.
Wow.
And it's not that they weren't supportive. It was just more. There was a level of all right, you got it out. Now let's go and
Buck up.
buck up. Yeah, kind of energy. Yeah, and again, I'm generalizing, but and I've had I have really good guy friends, and I think guys who have really been there for me. But sometimes, and I think there's good and bad. For example, I was going through, just using my mom and dad as an example. I was in my early 20s, and I was going through a really hard breakup, and I'd call my mom every morning before work, and to the point where she's like, it was almost like, she wasn't happy I was sad, but she was happy I was calling her every morning.
Yeah.
And we would it was like honestly, this happened for 2 months. Like every morning, just call her. It was like routine. And ultimately, we just kind of said the same shit over and over. It was just a lot of rumination over and over. My dad eventually was just like, you got to get over this. And the truth is, at that point, my dad was right, in that sense. I needed that tough love. My mom is one of the most empathetic people. And it's just a healthy balance, right? Because, there was a time where I needed to let my emotions out, but then I got to a point of just rumination and just kind of not getting anywhere, where my dad kind of stepped in and was like, hey man, enough's enough, you know? And I didn't want to hear it at that point. I literally told him, hey, I have a better chance of levitating right now than getting over this. I was so stubborn, but so I guess what I'm saying in those moments, I think women that I've talked to really allowed me to talk as long as I wanted. Just kind of give me that runway where there was a shorter runway with men.
Yeah.
You're listening to the Man Enough podcast. We'll be right back. Misleading labels, questionable ingredients, sugary formulas. Nah, hard pass. But then there's Ritual, made for skeptics, by skeptics. With their multivitamin for women, what you see is what you get, and what you get is really good. Ritual is an easy-to-use supplement that fits into the daily lives of both me and my wife, and as busy parents and professionals, we need things to be really easy. This is a clinically backed multivitamin for women and men 18 plus with high quality and traceable key ingredients in bioavailable forms. And Ritual's Essential for Women 18 plus is USP verified, meaning what's on the label is what's in the formula. It's soy-free, gluten-free, vegan-friendly, and formulated without GMOs. Plus, the minty essence in every bottle keeps things fresh and helps make taking your vitamins every day actually enjoyable. No more shady business. Ritual's Essential for Women and Men 18 plus is a multivitamin you can actually trust. And Ritual is offering our listeners 10% off during your first 3 months. So visit ritual.com/manenough to start Ritual today. All right. Welcome back to the Man Enough podcast.
Well, and if we can bring it back to this show, which is Man Enough, and it's about, men and women and gender and masculinity, you have a podcast where you are, listening and giving advice to people who are calling in about their dating lives. What's the biggest mistake that men make when they're dating women? And what's the biggest mistake that women do when they're dating men?
I think I think there's more similarities and differences in terms of mistakes.
Okay.
Yeah, I think when 9 times out of 10 when someone's calling in, regardless of their gender, if they're really stuck, it's because they're just prioritizing the wrong things like validation and they're focusing on kind of ego choices and things like that. And they get stuck. Yeah. And they're not asking questions. And it's really, really interesting. I tell people, just remember, like everyone's been someone's bad date. And it's just, I think we just have to just remind ourselves that dating is nerve-wracking and people get nervous and someone might be, it's like while one person's talking and trying to answer a question and share about themselves and being vulnerable, the other person's just sitting there being, well, they're not asking me any questions and things like that. And so I think sometimes
you personalize it.
We immediately, make ourselves, we're always the man, no one's the villain in their own story type of thing, And so I think we all kind of suffer from that main character syndrome. And I think we have to just have a little more grace and patience when dating because we're how if you're your best self on a first date, you're too good at dating, you're probably a fuckboy. You know what I'm saying? So it takes some nerves and humility and it's hard to be our best selves on the first date, and really open up and feel relaxed to just, loosen up a little bit and maybe we can get stuck and realize, oh shoot, I got oh no, I just rambled for 15 minutes, mostly because out of nerves and things like that. It's not
Yeah.
because I don't care about you or I'm not
Right.
interested. I just, oh shoot, And I think men and women are both doing that. I don't see a lot of, like, oh, men are clearly doing this and women are clearly doing that. I think it's just more, we're all afraid of not finding someone. We're all afraid of not being liked. We take rejection too hard. We're not seeing it as clarity. I see rejection as clarity. It's an opportunity to realize things that we shouldn't be prioritizing and focusing on anymore because we only have so much energy per day. It's not an infinite thing. And energy is power. And we give our energy and power to so many people who aren't even asking for it, let alone deserve it. And we have to really take that limited amount of energy we have and focus on the right people and people who are interested in getting to know us and wanting to build these emotional connections with us and ask us questions and listen to us and give us grace and patience for maybe your second or third date because they recognize, they're nervous too and things like that. And it's okay not to be accepted by the hot person or things like that.
I wonder if we can go back to because the fact that you brought up emasculation is actually incredible because we do get a lot of comments about that from particularly our male viewers.
Some of our male viewers, by the way, not our male viewers.
From some, yes.
Yes, okay.
Not hashtag not all men, not all man enough listeners. But it is, I think, a real question, right? Because we know that men who make less money than their wives are more likely to cheat on their wives. And we know that men who make less money than their wives also have real health consequences. Like they're more likely to have diabetes and high blood pressure and all kinds of different, it's not just a psychological thing. It literally, and again, researchers, the way that they concluded from that data was that not meeting society's ideal of masculinity, which again, we can debate if that's what men should be aspiring to. But yeah, researchers were like, not being able to meet society's ideal of masculinity literally is making men sick and potentially, ruining their marriage or making them sabotage their relationships. Yeah. And so, yeah, how should men who do feel emasculated but don't want to blow up their lives or don't want to, die of high blood pressure, how should they be dealing with that?
That's a great question. I'm not an expert in this, so I'm just shooting from the hip here. Yeah. But I kind of back to what I said before. I think it's really important to name the feeling you're feeling, whatever it is. And I think we got to create safe spaces for all people, but and men in this case to acknowledge a feeling, to acknowledge an insecurity, to say to their partner, this. If I'm being honest, and I'm embarrassed to say, but I feel a little less than, or I feel not enough. Because if you're in a relationship, if you don't communicate an insecurity to your partner, they can only guess what's wrong, and they can't really address it. So maybe in this particular instance where, let's say, there's a heterosexual relationship and the woman is a bigger earner, I just feel like for me, I just want to, as a man, I want to feel valued and I want to feel loved and I want to feel cared for and I want to feel safe. I want to be in a relationship where I can describe that feeling with my partner. It's not easy to admit these things. So maybe in that scenario, there's other ways where that a man could feel more of a sense of purpose in that relationship, even though he's not making more money. Maybe there's other things in that relationship. He can add value to that relationship and he can really be the caregiver or really, he can, there's a million ways you can add value. And I think you have to be able to talk through those feelings and then with your partner work through in that scenario, if a guy were to admit that feeling, I'd love for his partner to say, well, thank you for sharing. And how can we work through that? What would make you feel more valued? How can I make you feel more valued as a partner? There's certain, to a certain extent, you can only do so much, but creating a safe space to address your insecurities and then as a couple try to work on them together.
Are these things that you do when you on your own podcast and when you talk to people? These are the things that you suggest to others?
Sure, yeah.
So since we've started, I'm normally real talkative in the beginning or something of that nature. I'm just listening. I'm like, oh, I don't have much to say. Not because I'm not interested, because I'm like, oh, you're doing the work, man.
Thanks, yeah.
You're talking with a humble posture, which I love. You're multiple times saying, I'm not an expert in this, but you're sharing your feelings. You're making it about you. You're sharing what you think is helpful, which I think this idea of being able to talk about some of the fears and when we don't feel that we're enough, safe spaces to do that. You said particularly for men to be able to do that. I mean, all people. So I love what you're talking about.
Oh,
Yes,
thanks.
yes. I mean, we are on the same page with all this. So let me ask you a couple questions, if you don't mind, now that I've just basically confirmed all the stuff that you're doing. I'm really happy that you're doing these things. Do you have a sense, since you have experience like you were on The Bachelor, so that means there is, for those of us who don't watch the show, there is one woman and different men on the show who are, dare I say, competing to be the winner.
It's
that
definitely
she
a
would
competition
choose,
show,
right?
for sure.
So you're here with a bunch of other men who are all trying to earn her trust or love, right? And to see them as worthy of choosing. What is your experience of generally the men there? What do they think is the thing that the woman wanted? Was it tenderness? Was it to come off like a strong this? Or was it whatever?
Yeah, it's a good question. I've never really thought about that. Well, I think what makes that show interesting is the power dynamics on that show. You know, when you have one lead and then you have a bunch of suitors, regardless of the gender, it just drastically changes the power dynamic. And so,
But my specific question is not even so much that. It's because I think at that point now, rather than me just being myself, I know I'm going into a competition. So I'm going to start posturing a little bit.
Sure.
I'm going to start being something that I think is the ideal man for her to choose. So what do then I try to aspire to be? Am I comfortable? Were you comfortable just being this? Clearly, who you are and how you talk, I think, is part of your core of what you are. Were you comfortable being that version, or did you find yourself trying to be differently because the other men were there?
yeah, no, I mean, I really was myself. For better or worse, I've been maybe it's a product of having a large family, but I've very much been an individual. I often refer to myself as an only child with 10 siblings. And so, yeah, I went on, I was like 33 when I first went on, so I was a little older. But yeah, I generally, I never felt the need to, peer pressure never worked on me as a kid,
Okay.
you know.
Were most
but I
of the
never,
other men similar to that, or would you say they exuded these characteristics of masculinity that were the stereotypical?
yeah, I actually really didn't think I saw a ton of that.
You didn't?
And I think it has to do more with the power dynamic. I think that behavior would get called out pretty quickly in that environment.
Oh wow.
Yeah.
It's interesting. I would have thought. I would think if I went on the show, I'd try to be pretty authentic. I would think, oh, I'm up against 10 other men here, or however many it is. So I'd be like, is who I am enough?
Mm-hmm.
You know.
Well, let's broaden it out to the real world, right? Like men are competing with each other, right? When you go on a date or you're on a dating app, right? You're competing with all the other guys. Like, do you feel like there is like a performance that I mean, women do it, right? We know what you guys like, and we'll play that up. Like, do you feel like men that there's something that men are playing up in the dating world, or
I'm sure,
yeah,
for sure, yeah. I think it's hard to try to be yourself, and I think most daters, men and women, there's a fear of loneliness out there. There's a fear of not finding someone, and you know, we are all kind of ego-driven people, and when our egos are triggered, we prioritize the wrong things, and we prioritize being validated and things like that, and we don't prioritize, you know, feeling loved or cared for. It's just, you know, and so we kind of get that pick-me energy, and I think men will have it too. And we'll go on the dating apps, and we'll swipe, and all of a sudden we'll find someone we're physically attracted to, and then we'll convince ourselves the reason why we like them is because they said they like to laugh and travel in their bio. And then we'll go on a date, and you know, the first couple dates or the first couple minutes, we'll just get really excited, and then we'll stop asking questions, and we'll get really nervous, and all we're trying to do is prove to them that, you know, I hope they like me and things like that. And then those moments, that's when I think people in general have a really hard time being themselves, because and yet they have their egos in their head, telling them don't screw up, don't make if they like you, then you're enough, and if they don't, you're a loser.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that type of energy.
And also, like, dating in itself is the worst way to get to know someone. Like, my advice for men who want to go and hit on a woman in public is, like, don't go up and, like, make it a romantic encounter, like, by telling me how good I look or you want to take me out to dinner. It's like, whoa. Start a conversation around, like, the lineup at Starbucks, or tell me you like my shoes, or, like, make a conversation that's actually not romantic. And if you think about a first date, you're literally just there to
to interview someone.
Yes, to interview someone. Like, do I want to date you? As opposed to meeting someone at an event or meeting someone at the gym where you're connecting over other things and you're getting to know them in that way, right? So it is a very tense environment, and then people tend to blame themselves when things don't work out, right? Dating in itself, like, I have never met a person who's like, I love dating. Like, I love just like going out, meeting strangers, going on dating apps. Like, it's not a positive experience.
I think that's also because when people are going on dates, they're having the same conversation over and over because it's this interview.
Yes.
It's a lot like working out. Like, working out can be fun. Going to the gym can be fun. There's some people who are like really big, gym rats. But for most of us who want to like be in our best physical shape or just be healthy, like, working out's a grind, It's like, oh, fine, I gotta go to the gym today. But it's a means to like being our best self, and dating's the same way. It's a means to an end. It's the purpose is to find someone that we can connect with, and if you want to have a monogamous relationship and have a family, that's how you go about doing it. But yeah, so it is a grind, and I think it's okay to acknowledge that. And then just like with working out, you can feel fatigued. You need to sometimes take breaks. Sometimes you need to rest up, fill your cup, so you can be your best self when you get out there. And it's okay to acknowledge that it can be tough. But just like working out, you can have fun with it. You can have cool experiences. You can set goals. You can have good moments that keep you motivated and things like that. And it's just about framing your perspective.
Yeah.
Is that how you see dating, as a means to an end?
Yeah. What else is it?
You too?
Come on. Yeah.
You too? Everyone here?
I mean, like, again, you can have fun.
I'm looking, when I date, I'm looking to not date. Like, I want to not, right? You want to be on a dating app so that you're not ever on a dating app ever again.
When you talk about this de-romanticizing, which is like, that's the same advice I give to anyone who, about any career. It's like, if you actually meet people as people, not for like, what can this person do for me? Will this give me another job or another opportunity? You start to build a real relationship.
I agree
with
that.
Like, relationship outside of dating, like, if we build real relationships, we might have something beautiful. Like, regardless if it's romance or this or intimacy.
100%. However,
you still want that edge.
No. However, but if you are going on a date, I mean, I think the best way to date is to not date. Or I think the best recipe for relationships ultimately is built through friendship. Right? So that, you and I get to know each other, we hang out over a little bit of time. If we aren't feeling one another, then we're still friends afterwards.
Yeah.
You don't have to cut it off.
Right.
Earlier, you had mentioned the analogy of someone being cheated on. So my first part of the question is, have you cheated or been cheated on? And this is my issue with endgame stuff, right? I think about being a brown man. I think about the Latino community and tiguerismo and masculinity, and those men cheat all the time. So were they really ever looking for an end game? Like, if we don't know what we're actually looking for, what we want, what end game is there? We're not clear with ourselves. What do we actually, there is no end game. Okay. So first part, have you cheated? Have you been cheated on?
I've been cheated on. I've not cheated. Yeah.
What makes, for people listening who have been cheated on, you kind of mentioned this, like, one, how did you return to your strength, to your, to this sort of beautiful, strong, honest self right now? And then two, what makes men cheat? It's man enough. So I'm gonna ask.
I can answer that question.
You got that? Go.
I can answer that. No, I mean the second one. You can answer the first one, but I can tell you the second one.
Great. Let's get in it.
What did I do? I mean, again, therapy. At first when you get cheated on, again, it's you feel embarrassed. You feel a lot of things, and you feel pity for yourself. You feel shame. I spent a lot of time getting to know my ego, and so that's really helped me. And again, talking through things. And as a guy who's never cheated, I don't know if I can answer that accurately. I can only guess. I have a better answer for why people might cheat, because I've been cheated on by women. And I have guy friends who cheated. And I think, again, it literally comes down to not being enough, I think, for those people. Everyone has trauma. Everyone has, we're all a bunch of damaged people walking this earth. And some of us have dealt with it and some of us haven't. And I think for the people who step out of relationships is because they're looking for some sort of fulfillment that they think they can find through these acts of sex and attention and things like that. And they're deciding to, deal with their trauma in these kind of toxic ways without, instead of talking through it. Feelings change. People break up. People get divorced. That happens. People are allowed to fall out of love and things like that. That has nothing to do with infidelity or cheating. Like, to me, cheating isn't even about the sex. It's about a lack of trust or, things like that. And so, again, I think it has come down to, not feeling enough and then seeking this out in more toxic forms rather than dealing with it, or maybe going to their partner and saying, hey, I'm not feeling, I'm not getting what I need. And maybe it's not from you, maybe it's from myself. And instead of talking through your partner and having that safe space to talk, they just react and go out and find that whatever it is they feel like they're missing somewhere else.
I love it.
Yeah.
I think you spoke to a lot great of it. I mean, by the way, when I raised my hand, like I can speak to that, I want to be clear, that's not me speaking with a lot of pride. Like, oh, I've cheated, so therefore
Sure.
I've cheated my whole life.
Really?
My whole life.
Why? I mean, I'd love to hear why.
Well, this episode's not about that, so so it's hard to go into it because but I can just give a perspective that maybe is a condensed. When I say I cheated my whole life since I was my first girlfriend, since I was 11, I was not faithful in one form or another, right?
Sure.
I wasn't having sex, but whatever that meant. Until my marriage now, which is my third marriage, and we've been together 11 years, and I'm faithful and clean. And,
Congrats, man. That's awesome.
But I had never been, and I had not been faithful with people that I fucking love and adore.
Sure, yeah.
My ex-wife, who is one of my favorite people in the world, was unfaithful and hurt her and hurt people around me and the families of the families. It's not just the person that you're cheating on, but it's their parents and their siblings and the people that believe in it. And then you see I use this term like, you burn people. And then it's not just a one-time burn. You see the scars of the burn of the people that you hurt forever. I see certain families and I go, oh man, you see their arm. You're like, I was the cause of that fire, and you're reminded of the damage that you've done. I think it's different for different people. I don't always think it's because someone doesn't feel that they're enough. I think it's two things, in my experience and the work that I've done for men. One is there's trauma that we have that oftentimes is not ever dealt with, right? Modeled what we saw, what we did. We didn't get to talk it out. We were not taught to discuss things with other friends that were deeper, which I love that you've done. Your mom did with you. My mom also did this with me. However, nothing about my trauma and what my experiences were, which I won't go into all that. Not because I don't talk about it, just because I don't want to this is not the place for it at the moment. But there's trauma and trauma that was undealt with. And then also a respect and regard for the sacredness of relationships or marriage or monogamy or another person. To really, I think that society men are now so many, as I have 4 kids, 2 of them are boys, my 20-year-old, who's raised in a culture as I was, where to get more at all expenses, to not consider how other people are affected. That if I cheat, it's not really cheating because we're not married. It's only for marriage. And if I'm married, it's okay because we're not really happy, and it's okay. And also the lack of God, because God is also the one who has said, for many people who have a marriage, believe in some sort of idea that you are staying true to the laws beyond your own made-up laws. So I think the lack of respect for something greater than yourself causes many people to these lines to be blurred. So there are good people that cheat, that at the core they're good people, but have the boundaries are so blurred now, what's wrong or right. You make terrible choices and you hurt a lot of people, not because they're evil, not because I don't know the woman that cheated on you, but most likely was decent enough person that you saw her in the beginning to think she was decent. So I think one of the ways through it in my work for cheating and for cheating men is first to understand like every action, like how does it, aside from what I need, how is this affecting her? How does this affect humanity, the world, like my children, the people around? Do you understand the fire that you're starting? Do you know this is a fire? It's a fucking fire that goes forever. Do you understand that after that, no one trusts you anymore? You understand that it's just, most of the time it's in sex. Most of the time, it's not always sex, it's conversations too. It can be late night conversations that are inappropriate. It's not sex. But all of those things, if I think is a lack of understanding. And if all the men that I've spoken to through the work I've done, most of them are good people. They're not just guys that just throw away. And there's this common thing of some sort of trauma and also having no regard really for relationships. It's common. Not to make an excuse. I'm not saying it's okay that these people are like myself. I do not deserve to be married a third time to the woman that I'm married to that have 10 years of marriage. I don't deserve it. It just shows God's mercy to me, or that, we always have an opportunity to redeem ourselves possibly. But there are, most people I think are decent, good people that that don't have the framework, that don't have these conversations that they can learn.
Yeah, and I completely agree. I mean, I think I couldn't agree more that I don't think people who cheat are bad people, and I absolutely, I know people can be in love and still cheat. I don't think it's not about
love.
It's not really, it's about some not being, I often say no one lies to you more than you lie to yourself. As someone who's an overthinker, and I talk to myself a lot, so I have an opportunity to lie to me more than anyone else does. And kind of like you were saying before, it's just like, it's easy to make excuses or convince ourselves, I'm not really doing this. Like, I don't know, like a rub and tug's not cheating. It's just, something like that. Literally, I've had guys say that to me.
Yeah. Don't really understand the implications.
It's easy to justify our actions,
also, we see women as objects. Oftentimes.
That too,
it's not really worth having a high regard and respect for, because oftentimes men see women as objects.
Yeah, for me, I grew up very religious. I'm not very religious now. I grew up very Catholic, but to me, like I don't think we live in a time where we are prioritizing our character enough, and I don't think we're thinking about our choices. I think we live in a time where we accept people who agree with us, and as long as we feel like we're in a room with like-minded individuals, then we're okay with those types of people in the same room, regardless of their choices and how they treat other people and their character and how their choices affect other people, and that recognition that in this moment, I might want this, but how does this choice affect the people I say I love or care for? How does this choice affect myself? I had Dr. Maya Shankar on my podcast, who's a behavioral scientist, and she talked about the empathy gap that we have for ourselves. We're very rarely often thinking about future us, How are our choices impacting ourselves in the future, And we never really think about that as much. But I think, we need to start prioritizing character and friendship. What does it mean to me to be a friend? What does it mean to be a lover? What does it mean to be a mentor to someone, because I think now at times, like when it comes to friendships, I think, most people think friendships is about sharing secrets and having a good time, but then when shit hits the fan, are you really there for your friends? Are you willing to be the type of friend who you see your friend doing some shit, maybe it's them, DMing a girl or something, they have a girlfriend, instead of laughing at their, behavior or thinking it's cool, are you willing to call them out? Are you willing to say, hey man, that's not cool? Are you gonna be up front with your girl? Are you gonna make me I don't want to do it. It's your job, but are you willing to have a tough conversation, even at the risk of your friend calling you a pussy or, whatever, or things like that, or say they're not going to be your friend. Sometimes being a friend is willing to lose a friend, and all we have is our character, regardless of what you believe. I hope that people can want to, be good people and hold themselves accountable and treat other people with respect, regardless of who their God is. Because I see a lot of people who talk about their faith and religion, and I see them on the street, and they're not exactly doing what Jesus would do, so to speak. So.
And so how should men challenge other men who are cheating? Like, what does that conversation, because I feel like a lot of men don't necessarily have that conversation. And it's uncomfortable. I mean, there's an entire, like, bros before hoes, like,
Sure.
It's
I think
an
honestly,
underpinning of masculinity.
and I think it goes both ways too.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah.
For sure. But because this is Man Enough and,
Yeah.
This is, a lot of men are listening and want to be able to, have that uncomfortable conversation. How should they have that? Or should they?
I think absolutely they should. Yeah. I mean,
You better.
to me, I feel good about myself, and I feel more masculine if I'm doing what I feel like is the right thing and protecting people, even if I'm not necessarily, I don't think being a friend is doing an action that might hurt someone else. That you're an accomplice, you're not a friend.
Yeah.
And so to me, I think if you want to be a man, it's sometimes, again, it takes standing up to people you call friends and saying, hey, I love you and I believe in you. And it's because I believe in you and I think you're a good person at your core. I have the guts to tell you I think you're doing a shitty thing right now.
That's right.
And I don't think you are being your best self. And I want to elevate you and challenge you to reconsider your choices.
Yeah.
And I will be there by your side, and I'm not going to leave you. And even though she might, but I will be here by your side, and I will be a resource to you. But like, this is not who I think you are, and it's who you're being right now. But to me, that's being a friend. To me, that's being a man.
Holding each other accountable.
Yeah.
Love that.
Yeah.
Can I ask you, your book title is what?
Don't text your ex happy birthday.
Tell me about that.
Yeah. What?
Yeah, why not?
It's a great way to make someone else's day about you.
That's deep.
I don't know if I agree with that.
Why not?
Tell me more.
You don't agree?
What's the purpose?
Well, I've been divorced twice, and they're two of my.
I mean, listen, there's exceptions to every rule. If you have
No,
kids and things like
more
that.
than
but-
exceptions. I think yes, and I think we got to move away from that. Yes, because most of the time when we break up with people, it's them versus me. It's them. They're my ex. They're this. They're that. Exes are this. So yes, it is. Don't text them if you make it about you. But if we retrain our thinking and when we end relationships, we see them as someone that is still family, that is friends. That Liz and I say dated 5 years ago, and we broke up, but you did it in a way that was mindful and careful.
Sure.
Then you keep those relationships alive because this is part of I feel hurting our society is that we constantly are making others, whether it's race or whether it's because you used to date them or because it was class or culture or whatever it is. So how do we move to a point where, yes, to the point, I get it, but that you don't have to have that be a worry. That you call them happy birthday and they go like, oh, Jamey said happy birthday. What?
Listen, I think it's great if you can become friends with people you have dated. I have become great friends with women I have dated, but I don't think the goal should be to try to be like, you don't have to be friends with everyone you've dated. You can still respect that person and wish them well and not be their friend, so to speak. And I guess, the premise of don't text your ex happy birthday, it's more about kind of the months or weeks that follow a breakup, and in that moment where you're using their birthday as a way to re-engage with them.
I agree with that.
Right.
In that context, I agree,
Yes.
obviously. If you're still healing and you're doing stuff, someone's getting over you in life.
Problematic.
And we'll convince ourselves like, oh no, it's just for their birthday,
Right.
No,
Right.
then in that case, I agree.
Yeah.
I'm thinking long-term ultimately. That how do we handle things in a way that we are still connected?
I guess in your
to
scenario,
people?
I would call that person a friend and not an ex.
Yeah.
Because the women I became friends with after I dated, I didn't think of them as exes. I thought of them as just friends.
Okay.
Yeah.
I can see the point. There's a
What else
bit
shouldn't
of-
I text my friend, my ex?
Yeah.
Anything. I mean, it's okay to say goodbye and it's okay to have relationships end and wish them well and not become indifferent to them, generally speaking. I think that's okay.
But for someone who like wants to text their ex right now, like how do you get over a breakup?
So in that scenario, what's the purpose of why do you want to reach out?
You want to
connect.
You want to connect. You want to reconnect, right? Like, you struggled. You talk about heartbreak being really difficult for you, and a lot of your book is about that. So, like, for someone who's listening who's like can't get over their ex, what would
Sure.
be your advice?
Well, I would think about that relationship. I would ask yourself, how did that person make me feel loved? You know, I would list off ways in which that person made you happy. I would list off ways in which that person made you feel fulfilled or gave you clarity. And then I would list off ways where they made you feel frustrated and confused and less than and all those things. And I can assure you that list won't, it'll be telling, usually speaking. And I think we have to start accepting that what we want isn't always what we need. Especially when we're hurting and we're feeling less than. It's very easy to convince ourselves that we need or want things in the moment. And when we're hurting, we want that pain to go away. And so we will literally do anything to make that pain go away. So we start negotiating with ourselves and convincing ourselves that we need this or want that. And sometimes we just, again, have to allow ourselves to hurt. And we have to accept that maybe even though we made a bunch of promises with this person, we played house and we talked about our future and all these things that make heartbreak so hard because we go back and romanticize all the things that we've done. And sometimes it's just okay to say it ended and we don't get closure from, having the person who, left us to figure out new ways to tell us why they don't want to be with us. It's like, let's have one more conversation. It's like, okay, I guess, please tell me why I want to break up. And then it's torture. Like you're literally that's not closure. It's torture. Someone who doesn't want to be with us is not our person. We should be with people who want to be with us. We should be with people who want to prioritize us. That is a character quality that I want in my partner. Someone who wants to be with me. And if they don't want to be with me, that is something that I put on the negative list of because my ego wants them. My heart doesn't, my heart wants someone who wants to love me. And my heart wants someone who wants to protect me and who wants to ask me, how can I take care of you? How can I make you feel more secure? How can I protect this relationship? My ego wants someone who makes themselves unavailable and is confusing to me and gives me little breadcrumbs of validation here and there. That's what my ego wants. But we're often listening to the wrong voice when it comes to our love life.
Agreed. You're in a relationship now?
I am, yeah.
How long has that been going?
2+ years.
2+?
Yeah.
You gonna get married, family, kids? What's your?
I definitely. That's my only goal I've ever had that I haven't yet accomplished is to be a father. So I hope to have that someday. Yeah.
Sweet. I'm now, as I said before, thank God I have my wife, Natasha. She's incredible. This is something that I think we have a shared experience. We started dating 11 years ago. We've been together 11 years, married 9. But when I first started, I carried this burden that she was 16 years younger than me, 15, almost 16. And I don't know why I did. I was trying to figure it out. I mean, I think I knew why, some of it because of what someone might think, or was I don't know. But what I experienced, I talked to my father, and when I was telling him about it, I think I am going to marry this woman. And I was hesitant as I was telling her, and he was like, well, what's going on? I was like, well, she's 16 years younger than me almost. He said, okay. And I said, well, there's that. And he said, does she exemplify the things that you think would demonstrate being a wife? Yes. Do you show up for her in this way? Yes. Does she believe in the things that all the questions? Yes. Okay. So tell me right now where age has anything to do with that. She's a grown woman.
Yeah.
What's the difference that, she was 26 at the time, I was 40, whatever the difference was, 41, 42. Anyways, it was an interesting conversation that allowed me to let go of anything that I was holding on to or caring about, what society says or what someone would think or all that. And rather than standing small in it, I could stand tall and be proud of this relationship that I'm in and everything. And thank God, because like I said, we've been together 11 years, 9 years. We've got 2 kids. She's the best stepmom in the world. I just had a grandchild, and she was there with my daughter as the doula that gave, she's dear friends with my ex-wife, previous wife, my friend. I won't say ex-wife. I don't even like using ex-wife, but for context. So do you have anything thoughts about that, or same experiences or felt feelings or anything?
I mean, when I met Natalie, I was very self-conscious. She DM'd me, she pursued me, and which I found very attractive. at the time.
Because she was confident in that way.
Yeah. She asserted herself, and I've always been attracted to big personalities and women who stand in their power. I just find it really hot and attractive. I like confidence in general. But when I found out her age, I was quick to tell her we're never going to date. Because I didn't really know much about her at the time. And I was like, there's just no way we're going to connect. She's very determined and stubborn in both good and bad ways. But in this way, it was a great way where the more I got to know her, the more I just remember thinking, why are you so like, one of the, and I'd been single for a long time and met and dated a lot of women my age, women older than me, women younger than me, great women, just
Wasn't the right one?
Just wasn't the right one. And then here I am meeting this person I'm just having so much fun with, and just makes me feel good and makes, I found myself feeling loved and wanting to love, and those were feelings I hadn't felt in a while. And so I struggled for a long time. And so for the first 9 months of us dating, I was
hiding it.
Well, I was refusing to date her. I was refusing to be with her, and it took her, walking away, that type of thing, and she did the thing that so many people don't do, which is she didn't ask me what I wanted, and she didn't ask me what this was or anything like that. Because when you do that, you immediately give away your power.
Right.
You're asking.
Right.
People don't say what are we when they don't know what they want. People say, what are we, when they know what they want, and they're hoping the other person affirms what they want. And instead of just telling them, they ask them because it's scary to get rejected. So they want to ask that person and not put themselves out there. But again, you lose that power. And she just sat me down and she's like, we should date. And here's why. She did not bend on the boundaries she set, which most people do, which is, I want this. You can't have me if you don't want to give me this. And I say no, and they're like, just kidding. We can keep hanging out. And finally she was like, nah. Or like, I'm no longer gonna do this. And I quickly came around. And at that point I was just like, you know what? Screw it. Like I've been single long enough. Like we can always not work out. But I was very self-conscious about what people would say. And here I am, this guy who gives relationship advice to a lot of women. And obviously there's a lot of opinions about age gaps and things like that, and judgments. And I knew I'd have to face those. But
did you apologize when you first were dating? I don't mean apologize with the words I'm sorry, but in the relationship, did you kind of apologize for it externally, outwardly, like
no,
not champion?
No, I found myself having a lot of conversations with critics in my head, type of thing. But to me, like Nally, I've always seen Nally as my equal, and I've always been very mindful of power dynamics and relationships, and she was always someone whose opinion I respected. She was someone whose opinion I sought, and I didn't see someone who was younger than me who I needed to coach up. It was someone who I felt like added as much value to my life as I added to hers. And we also acknowledged the age gap, because it does exist, and it does play a role, and every once in a while we feel it.
Yeah.
There's that book, He's Just Not That Into You. And the premise of that general book is you're not the exception to the rule, you're the rule. And I don't necessarily love that. I think I talk about that a lot, and people will also say a lot of what I talk about kind of reminds them of that book. But as someone who I'm mindful of my ego, but I have one, and I love being the exception to the rule, and I love taking big swings in life, and I've swung and missed a bunch of times, but I like going big. But I want to acknowledge to myself when I'm taking big swings. And so it was just important to us to acknowledge that, there is an age gap. It's going to come up. We don't need to run from it. We just need to prepare to address it when we do feel it, and not, critique our relationship. And outside opinions don't really matter all that much as I am self-conscious. And it was one of those things where, I actually literally talked to my therapist about it before we, And she was right. She's like, listen, it's either going to not work out and you'll break up and it won't be a big deal, or it will work out and people won't care. They'll just see the love that you have between the two of you, and that's ultimately what matters. And outside people who don't know me or don't know her and just, see two numbers, they'll have their opinions, and it is what it is. But, they're not they don't know us, and they're just kind of projecting whatever that's going on in their life. Because the truth is, there are a lot of unhealthy relationships out there as a result of a difference in age gap. There are predatorial men out there who go after young women for the purposes of manipulating and taking advantage of a power dynamic and things like that. And so I think every person has to be honest with themselves of why they're in this relationship. And, is the fact that there's an age gap, is it deliberate, or is it just something that happened that you would otherwise not have, but everything else it has a lot of value to it?
Yeah, thank you for saying that. And acknowledging all of the dynamics and being honest. I think that's so great. And I was in a relationship where there was an age gap, and it was the best relationship I'd ever been in. And I had hang-ups around it too. And it happens to me with the reverse, with like younger men all the time, because I'm getting old, So, I'll meet guys where I'm like, you're younger. and I'm like, okay. And then I'm do what you do where I'm like, I'm never going to date you. It's impossible. But then, you can build connection.
You never really
with people
know.
You don't know. Yeah.
It's okay to question things, and I'm okay with people questioning my relationship because I know what the relationship's about. And, so I don't have a problem with people questioning it or critiquing it or things like that.
Me and my wife had to have one conversation one time where I had to, and that's where I asked about apologizing, where I forget how she framed it exactly, but she wanted to know, was I embarrassed because she was younger? Not in terms of our interaction, but like embarrassed and outward. And I was like, no, but I'm mindful of how. And she had said something to the effect of, it makes me feel this.
Yeah.
And I was like, you'll never feel that
Mm.
again. Other than like certain idioms she may not. Wait, you never saw Happy Days? Or you don't know? There's some like things that
we actually have fun with that, Those
that's
little
fine.
moments
That's
of like,
fine.
but
that's all fine. But
and I
that
think
was something I needed to know.
Yeah, and there was definitely moments I think early in our relationship where I said something or did something that came across more condescending and belittling and made her feel young and things like that. And, again, similar to, that bothers me that you say that. And I was like, that makes sense.
Yeah.
Sorry. I didn't mean it like that, but I recognize how it came across, and, you just have to create that space.
I think that's why I return to that, no end game, right? Like meet people as they are. And if you're enjoying that moment, enjoy that moment as long as you got it. Because one of those younger men, Liz, might be the one, like no end game, right? If you close the door too soon, you never know, right?
Yeah.
Meet people, and if you're enjoying that night, enjoy that night. You might enjoy the morning, you might enjoy the afternoon, but you might not enjoy the next day, and that's okay.
Yeah.
That's right. I mean, obviously, everything has to be appropriately right, but yes, I have a joke with my wife. I have a joke with my wife that I'm like, we're all good, everything's fine. You do know, like in 20 years, one day we're gonna be sleeping. She's gonna open her eyes. She's gonna be like. She's gonna look and be like, "Shit, he got old."
If nothing else, now that it keeps me motivated to invest in myself for sure. Yeah,
skincare.
My skincare routine is on point. Yeah, for sure. She keeps me, and I love that. I love that about our relationship.
Yeah.
I love that.
Good for you.
She, we push each other. Yeah.
Great.
Yeah.
As we wrap up, we like to ask people this final question:
what does it mean to be man enough?
To me, it's loving someone or some things, loving someone greater than yourself, being willing to serve others, really. That's what it means for me, to be able to make sacrifices and give love to the people you care about, even at the risk of not meeting your immediate need and caring for the people you say you love and care about.
My man.
Beautiful.
One of my favorite answers
Ever.
Thanks. Yeah.
ever. You were on The Bachelorette twice. You didn't win either one.
I was the runner-up twice.
Had I been The Bachelorette, I would have chose you, man.
I appreciate that. Yeah.
I
You're
really,
my winner.
We would have had a good run. Yeah.
We would.
I feel that you are doing the work in ways that I love hearing that men are doing. Not that other men are not doing the work as well, but I hear a lot of accountability and ownership, emotional willingness to have conversations. So I think you are exemplifying, honestly, some of the ways that men can learn from. I'm glad you're doing the work you're doing.
Yeah.
No, I appreciate it. Yeah,
Thank you.
it's been a long journey, and there's been a lot of highs and lows, but I'm grateful to still be here, and I'm grateful to people who have been willing to listen to me and speak with me. And my, shout out to Darlene, my therapist.
Jeremy, mine.
And yeah, it's
Wonderful.
It makes me feel good to. A final thought I'll say for anyone going through it, whoever you are, I'm old enough to know, and I'm sure you'll agree with this.
Why'd you look at me and not him?
Well,
You're a grandfather.
it was
Your
a
grandpa.
safe play.
It was a safe play. Good play. Good play.
Some of my best memories today are some of my most difficult memories because I've survived them. I've worked through them, and I look back sometimes thinking about crazy shit I said or how I felt, and I kind of look back with a grin or in a chuckle because it feels really good to survive and work through things and come out on the other side better for it, and having learned something that you can utilize for a different interaction. So if you're going through it or if you're struggling right now, if you have the strength to work through it and do the work, it might end up being a really great memory. Because I'm certain whenever I die and when my life flashes before my life, it will be a lot of those moments that I survived and worked through and learned from that will be the ones that flash before my life.
Yeah.
Scars, not wounds.
Yes.
That's
thank
right.
you.
Thank
and
you so
thank you
much.
for talking about mistakes and like taking feedback. I feel like
Yeah.
that's like, again, just something you didn't even talk about, but you exemplified in the way that you existed in this conversation. And so thank you.
We're all damaged. We're just not broken.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, your tattoo. I know too much about you. Sorry, it's creepy. No, you talked about it in an interview. I don't know his body, but you
It's okay.
talk that you have that
It's right.
tattoo.
It's right on my arm.
I love it.
That's right. Well,
Thank you.
Thank you. It's been fun.
Thanks.
Yeah. Thanks for having me, everyone.
thanks for joining us. Liz is laughing at me. With that, thanks for going on this journey with us. We'll be back next week with a new guest.
Leave the room.
Follow us. You can follow us. This is like real stuff. This is how we do it, right? We just go through it. This shows our messiness and our mistakes. And I'm man enough to make mistakes. Come join us. Not join us. Follow us at manenough.com/podcast. You can get us on Spotify and Apple and all those fun places. Are you going to come back with us again, brother?
There's who knows? The universe is huge. Anything is possible. Yes.
Yes. How about you, Liz? You feeling good?
Yeah, I'm feeling great. I had a good laugh.
You did.
Endorphins are
I appreciate
flowing.
you. All right. We'll see you next time. Until then, I'm Jamey Heath.
I'm Liz Blaine.
Christopher Rivas.
And this is Man Enough.